The bad guys, they may be approaching your facility, in the lobby, doing a social engineering, trying to penetrate by, through deception. But the same bad guys may have a cyber person who's trying to hack in to help enable your penetration attempt. So it makes sense that on security, we've got to combine and converge the physical and the cyber so we can, identify these risks and not allow them to hide in silos. So
is your office safe? Have you ever had or witnessed an incident in your office where safety or security were compromised? And how would the situation have been different if your office would have been safer and more secure? I'm not just talking about tripping over a cord or having someone throw something outside their office window at you, but also what about getting dysentery when traveling abroad or being involved in a criminal ambush? All of which have actually happened to me, minus the criminal ambush, thankfully. But these are all things that leaders can prepare themselves, their team, and their organizations for. And in this episode, you'll discover how to make your office safer and more secure without spending a fortune. Enter Robert Dodge, who is the CEO of Prosegur, which is one of the top security organizations in the world. And by the way, Robert's actually worked for the top 3. Robert's giving you some of the best tips to keep your office safe while still looking and being professional. And by the way, make sure to like and subscribe to this episode because every Wednesday we have a new CEO session heading your way.
There's really only one step that I recommend. And, it's basically what we call a risk assessment, Ben. And whether you have internal expertise or you get somebody from outside to come in, because guess what? If you don't do that and you call the local guard company, they're going to tell you need 50 guards when you only might need 2. The technology, same thing, right? So the assessment is going to give you a roadmap and identify what your real threats are, right?
Yeah.
And who those are, and where you're vulnerable. And then lastly, what does that mean to the business in terms of the impact, right? And those are really things that anybody can understand. And then it gives you a roadmap based on your economic and political realities, Ben, of your organization. Because as a consultant, if that doesn't match what your reality is, then I've just wasted your money. But if you get that will give you a roadmap to say, hey, how do I keep secure? And what steps can I do today? And then maybe push off some to tomorrow based on my budget. And then, hey, I'm feeling good because I've got a roadmap and somebody's educating me as to where I need to go.
When does it get to the point where they need to be thinking about looking at an organization like yours at Prosegur to kind of take it to the next level?
Yeah, Ben, it's, whether they fear what could happen or not, there's a lot of, we joke, we say if Osama bin Laden doesn't get you, the litigator or the regulator will. So there's things around duty of care, standards of care. So the days of allowing your travelers to, canvass the world on their own without providing any information or any kind of this risk umbrella around them are long gone because if something bad happens. So there's teeth to it. So companies have to think about that. And what I would argue is, the number one risks to travelers aren't always security related things. A lot of it's medical is quite common. We see a lot of issues in Delhi belly and India, Montezuma's revenge and Mexico and all these things, eating different foods and things along those lines. So the security issues are there, but there's also, listen, I personally have been detained in airports because of visa issues or things that they changed, or it's a diplomatic spat, or because you have the wrong, yellow fever shot. And if it can happen to me, seasoned traveler who does this for a living.
You're the CEO. It shouldn't happen to you, right?
It's going to happen to everybody, right? Who's not in the industry. And then everything else, the threats are broad because listen, Ben, at the end of the day, you're safe in your little corporate headquarters with your security guards and technology and process. But once you're out, in hotels and airports and, in foreign countries, this is not your backyard. You're not familiar with the risks. And this is where you become very, very vulnerable. So companies really need to protect their travel. The bad guys, they may be approaching your facility, in the lobby, doing a social engineering, trying to penetrate by, through deception. But the same bad guys may have a cyber person who's trying to hack in to help enable your penetration attempt. So it makes sense that on security, we've got to combine and converge the physical and the cyber, so we can, identify these risks and not allow them to hiding in silos. So
holy smokes. Okay. That's cool. That's good for everyone to know. Cause I think people think about like a security company being somebody running the gate or someone doing cybersecurity. But you guys are taking a more holistic view to the whole thing and finding where it all fits together. You said 46 of the top 50 dangerous cities are actually in the Americas, which is surprising to me. What are the common mistakes that you're seeing leaders make out there when it comes to security?
Yeah, I think that they might have a security profile that's built yesterday, but as time evolves, whatever countermeasures they put in place to protect their organization, well, that drives the evolution of the bad guys. A persistent threat is going to, Ben, if they're trying to get at you, they're not just going to give up because you close the door. They're going to find a ways to, keep after you. So it's an evolution, and within risk management, you've got to constantly assess your risks and your vulnerabilities and then try and mitigate those, right? The shoe bomber right at the airports, that caused a series of security changes. And then just this, cat and mouse game that I think employers have to stay in tune. One country, part of the country may be, the safest part on the planet. Another part may be high risk. And the last thing I would say for, US based leaders is they get information that's US centric about the rest of the world. And what I've learned is when you're actually in these countries and you actually see what's going on, it doesn't always match with what the US government or private sector perception of what's happening is on the ground. So it's vital to have resources and information and intelligence sources that are actually coming from within the region. And then another scenario where you're getting real-time information from, again, the aggregation of those technologies around threat information that can bring those in quickly and relative to your location. It doesn't mean, Ben, if you only care about Karachi, Pakistan, it does me no good to send you information, or you no good to get information on Islam, right? You need the stuff that's relevant to you, or else you hit delete. And that stuff's available to customers. So they need to evolve and mitigate using intelligence-led risk management more than they have done in the past with the whole guard gates and guns scenario.
Yeah, so many good points there. And I love what you said about evolve, because I can totally see an organization like, we updated our security profiles of everyone last year, or we did it 2 years ago, so they're still good. And you're like, no. I mean, it's things can change so quickly. So it sounds like you guys are really focused on, and leaders need to be thinking about taking a more proactive stance to security versus just being reactive. Because to be honest, it seems like with cybersecurity, it is so reactive. Like people are monitoring things around the clock, responding, but you guys have a very proactive approach. Yeah,
company doesn't want to see different faces every time he shows up in Mexico City, right? They like their familiarity. They like, I mean, we all do. We're human beings. We all like that person we know that we could relate to a little bit, that's been there before, that trusted face, right? Especially in a new environment. And let's just be honest, right? We know the trusted face equals predictability in service. And there's a pandemic of COVID-19, but there's also a pandemic of bad service and, shattered dreams.
Absolutely.
Why can't I get my hamburger even done right nowadays, right?
It's so true. Yeah, so hotel service, everything.
It's a killer for us in client relationships, and then knowledge and productivity. So we do everything we can to avoid it. We had a lot of activity in the Middle East. In particular, Egypt. We're working for one of the global news crews that had, we had a protection detail on the ground, and we were literally monitoring activities from the United States using these really cool intelligence tools around ability to monitor social media and everything else out there, because intelligence became very important to us, because a lot of the normal communications got shut down by the government. But we had our clients there, and it was a very difficult situation, Ben. Things were disintegrating by the minute. And we happened to get early indications and warnings that one of the British news crews was basically under assault by some of the authorities. And they were in the same hotel. It was the Hilton Hotel in Tahrir Square in Cairo. And we were able to pass on information as to what was happening and basically guide them throughout the city, including using things like satellite imagery from halfway around the world to identify military checkpoints and other things to basically divert them and get them to a safe route for ultimately for us to keep them safe and extract them from the company within hours, using these fantastic things like you'd see in the movies and a James Bond that are out there now, technologies that allow us to watch different types of things around the world, plus some really good people on the ground. So we had a lot of that type of stuff going on within a short period of time. And that's a microcosm of really the corporate security world. We help corporations and do things ultimately governments aren't always able to do or willing to do for, fill that void to help private sector clients around the world. And that was one example of it.